But then also like on top of the photography now, obviously I've seen that you've got your own studio. So how long have you had that for?
That was since when I left my job. So as soon as I left my job last January, my plan was, how am I going to be different to hundreds of other photographers in Wolverhampton? And that was to have a studio, to have something that other people haven't got. So I think it was like March, April time that I managed to find a place that was good enough, where the rent was good enough. And I just went for it. And the initial thought process behind it, was for just me to use it, to be able to say to clients, I don't just turn up somewhere with a camera. If you want press shots, album art, family, I don't do much families, but if you want those portraits, headshots, all that kind of stuff, the more commercial and corporate side of things, I had somewhere to take them, and I wouldn't have to take it out. Obviously it's a rented property, but I wouldn't have to take it out of I wouldn't have to go to Birmingham and say if I earn 200 quid for a shoot, I haven't got to pay 80 quid for the studio. Do you know what I mean? Because it works out a lot less. And then somebody says to me, can I use it? And it was like, yeah. And then somebody else, can I use it? And it was like, well, I can't have all these people using it, so I'm going to rent it. Spoke to the gaffers and they were like, yeah, you can do that. You're fine. You're there with them. And I'm there in the 9 times out of 10, unless they're really familiar with my studio and I trust them. Yeah. I'm in there with them, guiding them through the shoots, because I just don't want people to come in and go on with terrible photos because they're unfamiliar with studio lighting or whatnot. So yeah, it was just, that was the main driver, was to sort of say, I need to set myself on a higher standard to all these, I don't want to say, I'm going to say Instagram photographers. Do you know what I mean? People who are just hobbyists going out there claiming to be professionals, putting in their bio, DM for rates or collab, which is, to me, is just a massive contradiction. Are you working for free? Are you doing this? I work for free, but I don't advertise it.
Yeah.
So it's one of them things that I needed to separate myself and just get something better.
No, I love that, man. Surely, obviously, I understand you felt like you needed something to make you different to the other photographers in Wolverhampton, but surely, financially, that must have been was an investment, isn't it?
Yeah, it's more than a mortgage.
How are you so sure that was? I guess you can never be super sure that it's going to work, but how are you so confident to then go ahead and be like, yeah, do you know what? Let's just get it.
It was one of those things where obviously me earning. Yeah. What I try to do is I try to run it as 2 businesses. So I've got the studio and then I've got me as a photographer. But the idea was that if the rent of other people, so the hire or rental price of other people didn't satisfy this rent on the studio, that I would then use my photography money that I've earned to pay that.
Okay.
And at the price it was at the time, I'm on my 2nd studio now, but at the time when I was in the smaller one, a couple of £100 a month, I was making that. Yeah, I was making that consistently. So it was a risk. It was a big risk, and there's a phrase I use that is kind of toxic positivity, because it's not necessarily true, but take the risk or lose the chance.
Yeah,
and that was one of them things. I took the risk, so I didn't lose the chance. I came out of my job, and I had to focus on something. Otherwise, I was going back into a job that a quality professional are not really appreciated in. We're a necessary evil. So it was like, I want to do good for me now. I want to do something I want to do. So I didn't know it was going to work, to be fair. I really didn't. And there's been times where I've looked at the bank and been like, rent's due soon and I've not got this. And it's just like, it's just one of them, but it's working. It's working. I'm not a millionaire from it. I'll never be a millionaire from photography, but I'm not rich from it. I'm not even earning probably half as what I was as a quality manager. I'm still on that journey.
It's still growing.
Yeah, I pay the rent every month and I pay it out of the studio fund, not my fund. So it's doing all right. It was just a risk. It was just a risk that I felt like I had to take.
And do you feel like it's paid off? Do you feel like right now it's paying off, or do you see it?
Yeah, definitely. There has been sort of an influx in obviously Instagram. You get a lot of photographers watching you. Yeah. And when I opened a studio, because I've only been on Instagram doing what I've been doing for the last 2 to 3 years, people have looked at me and thought, oh, this guy's opened a studio and he's only been doing this for like 2-3 years, when I haven't. I've been doing it for years. Do you know what I mean? I just switched up my Instagram to a new profile when I started doing the music, and took away all the pictures of like families and old folk songs I used to do. All my abandoned exploring went away, and it was just music artists. And there's been an influx of studios in Birmingham predominantly. There's been loads. There's even been some people contacting me saying, oh, on your unit, are there any units to rent? And I'm like, well, what do you want to do? And they're like, well, I'm a photographer. And I'm like, well, yeah, what are you asking me? And they're like, well, I want to open a studio. And I'm like, it's like asking KFC for their secret ingredient. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to get another photographer a studio space on my space at the rent that I pay, so they can just undercut my prices. And that's exactly what happened. They found a place in Birmingham and they just charge stupid amounts an hour. And a lot of people that came to my studio have now gone there. Yeah, but I'm just continue to do what I do. I'm not going to change it up. I'm not going to lower my prices. I'm not going to try and undercut everyone else. I'm just going to keep being Jaymo, keep offering. The reason people come to me, and this is through feedback, is because of how helpful I am. I don't just let them in the studio and then say, see you later, enjoy your 4 hours or your 8 hours. I sit there and I ask them, are you any good with studio lighting? 9 times out of 10, they're not. So what I do is I offer help. I'll sit there with them. I'll even hold lights. I'll tell them the camera settings. I'll set the lights up. I'll do the backdrops. And I'm hoping that's what's going to bring people back. People feel comfortable in my presence and within my studio walls. And that's what I want. Again, customer satisfaction. You know, it's a business, but it's not just about making money for me. It's about building a reputation, giving something back to people. I left my job because I wasn't being given nothing. I wasn't being helped. Yeah. You know what I mean? And when I first started photography, I wasn't really being helped. So it's like, I'm in a position now with the experience I've got, the facilities I've got, to give something back to people. I know they have to pay me for that because I have to pay for what I've got, but I do it at a fair price. And from the feedback I am getting, it's paying off. Yeah. Paying off. I get reoccurring clients that do pay my rent. My rent does get paid through them, but I still need, you know, that's mainly weekends. The 7 days in a week I'm willing to work. I still need to get them days in the weekday booked up and stuff. So it's got a lot more growth to go through yet.